The wait is over. It is Ryder Cup week, and there are so many different things that we want to immerse ourselves in as it relates to this competition. How about wagering? How about handicapping this competition, a format these players are unfamiliar with throughout the year? Now, they have a lot of experience doing this once every couple of years. How do you handicap a Ryder Cup? Not only who wins, but individual matches. How about wagering on every hole? All of it is going to be covered right now with an expert in that department, and Brendan DeYoung, who has been in a competition like this representing the international side on the President's Cup team. It is the 5 Clubs Read the Line wagering special next. And with that, welcome in to this wagering special. Think about how far we've come when it comes to laying one down just from Rome to where we sit today. And you better believe that that New York audience wants to do just that. So do all people around the world. That is why we are doing this special just for you in the lead-in to the Ryder Cup alongside the face, the voice of Read the Line, Keith Stewart, and of course, Brendan DeYoung from PGA Tour Live, Golf Channel, and of course, a contributor here at 5 Clubs, was on that 2013 International President's Cup team. All right, boys, are we ready to dive into this? Do we have enough time?
I mean, we've had some time, Gary. It got announced, over about 4,400 days ago that we were coming to Bethpage. Yes. So I'm ready. 4 more days, but yes, I'm definitely ready.
We might need, Brendan, 4,400 days to understand all of the data, all the angles that he is going to present to us as it relates to how to handicap and wager this event.
I just look down and my head is spinning, Gary. First of all, he writes like a doctor, but the rest of it in my head is just all over the place.
It is that Sean McVay would be very, very impressed by that play sheet. All right, let's get to it. First of all, I mentioned your experience on the President's Cup team, but look, we all love the game of golf. Do you remember your first recollection of the Ryder Cup, watching a Ryder Cup?
Yeah, it was one of the ones at the Belfry. I believe it was 89 at the Belfry.
Oh, boy.
The first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing a lot of Seve and Jose Maria. And I fell in love with it from the start. I mean, it's unlike anything else, and it's just so cool. We don't get to see team golf, and then you see these guys come together as one, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, the Belfry, 85, 89, 93, people got very familiar with that place. Particularly, I remember the 10th hole, which could be drivable over that little pond. A quirky place, great memories there. How about you?
99 for me, Brookline, which is an easy one to pick as an American, but I was working as a young golf assistant in Boston. I worked at Braeburn right across town. We were sister clubs to the country club. So I spent my entire week there helping out, volunteering. I was, one of my best friends at the time. We lived right there in Cleveland Circle, which was right near Boston College and Brookline. And, I spent the week with him Sunday afternoon riding around in a cart, looking at all the different golf matches. I was, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred feet away from the Justin Leonard putt.
Wow.
So for sure the celebration up on the balcony, the second floor of the men's locker room there at the country club. I mean, all of that left a lasting impression.
Yeah, I went in 91 to Kiowa, but I remember just very vaguely the Lanny Watkins wedge in 83. That was when it was like, oh my God, they're here. Europe came aboard in the 79. Seve was a bona fide rock star by 83. But those ones at the Belfry stand out. But like 99, there are certain ones that were flashpoints. 99 was one. I think 91 was as well, considering that Europe had said, we're not going to take any punches anymore. We're going to start throwing some. And here we sit now in 2025. Brennan, it's become a behemoth. We talk about this thing incessantly in the year leading into it, and you know what? I never get tired of it.
Yeah.
I never get tired of the conversation. That's why by the time we get to it and we're finally here, it's built to such a crescendo, we're all just bursting. for this thing to get going.
Oh, 100%, Gary. And you're right, it is. It's one of those things that regardless of whether it comes up in a conversation at a country club or whether it comes up in a conversation with golf aficionados, people want to talk about it. People want to discuss the Ryder Cup. They want to talk about who's going to get fiery, who's going to get a little agitated. And it is. It's one of those things that it's just got legs, no doubt about it.
It does. It's also the format itself lends itself to a lot of stuff. You know, things changing on a dime, holes, it's 18 one-act plays. If we can get 18 holes, which, you know, you're not necessarily inclined to do, and that gets me to something that I don't know how you handicap people's ability to adapt to this environment. We only know until they experience it. Europe has a lot more experience than the American side has. The most experienced American Ryder Cup player is Justin Thomas, playing in his fourth. They've got half their team that's played in at least fourth. Rory's on his eighth. Justin Rose on his seventh. How about trying to handicap who you think is going to be good in this environment and in confrontational golf?
Yeah, I mean, the difference between match play and stroke play, I mean, this is the toughest question of them all. Like, where are strokes gained, like performance under pressure?
Yes.
And, you know, so much of, you know, what people say, you know, Keith, tell us about the data on, you know, who's the best iron player, who's the best, you know, off the tee guy. Who is the best guy under pressure? I mean, was it good that Ben Griffin played the Pro Tour? You know, that last putt on the last hole, you know, everyone would have said, hey, geez, the guy played fantastic golf.
Yeah.
But then a big putt under pressure, and then all of the Ryder Cup talk after that. You know, I mean, this is exactly what you're talking about, and it's really hard to it's easier to handicap something that is 72 holes of conservative stroke play, and the data really applies.
Yes.
I mean, really what it comes down to is that how much of the data really applies to these players in one-hole situations.
See, that's the most interesting thing, is that, look, what else are we going to rely on? We rely on all of the stuff that they do to build their case for not only being on the teams, but why they should be, you know, front and center and play 4, maybe 5 sessions. Why don't you answer that question as it relates to someone like Ben Griffin? Getting deep into the pool and in the blender late and looking at Scotty Scheffler, and yes, that moment you're going, oh, that could be twitchy. Was that good for him?
I still think it was good. Even the fact that he missed that putt or 3-putt of the last hole to lose that tournament, I still think it's good. I think to experience those feelings, because there's a good opportunity that he's going to experience those feelings over and over and over this coming week. So, yeah, I still think it is a big plus.
Okay, there's a lot that we're,
And let me say this real quick.
Sure.
I mean, this is a wagering show. We're trying to put all of this in perspective.
Yep.
After the Pro Tour, whether it was good or not for Ben, Scotty won, and the odds shifted. That Monday, I've been tracking the odds since earlier in the year when it would kind of have mattered, right? And they were pretty much set in stone for 2 weeks after Europe set their team. It was kind of like, okay, these are the 24 guys that are going to Bethpage. We know the golf course. We know the captains. And then all of a sudden, after the Monday of BMW and the Monday of Pro Tour, it jumped all of a sudden. The U.S. became more of a favorite and Europe more of an underdog. Well, we had 10 of 10 make the cut. You know, all of that plays into this, right? The books, they understand golf. They know, you know, the phrase, they know ball, right? Yep. So they're watching all of this. So I do have to kind of agree with the player here. You know, like, I think it was good for Ben Griffin. I think it was good that all 10 made the cut. And I think overall, there's still a huge home court advantage.
And should they be favorites to the degree that they are, in your mind?
No. I mean, this is as close as we've ever had 2 teams on paper.
Sure.
So it's exaggerated by the books because of liability. There's a domestic bias that thinks that we are going to, I mean, New York is the #1 betting state in the union, all right? Just to give you an idea, they did almost $23 billion in betting last year. That led the way. Last year in September alone, they did $2 billion, right? It's a golf-starved area for a major championship or a major golf event. We haven't seen a major golf event since Bryson and COVID, and then before that it would have been Brooks at Bethpage, right? So this is a very educated environment that is going to wager heavily on this. I think the line is where it is because they're worried about liability.
From your standpoint, knowing these players and knowing who you think is going to respond to this, do you think the United States should be favored?
No.
You do not.
No, because I think you talked about it a little bit earlier there. I think with the European team, they're a proven entity. They've been there, done that.
Yeah.
All of them together.
All of them together, exactly. There's a lot of guys that you don't know how they're gonna show up in this environment. It's unlike anything else. It's always, you hear of guys talk about the Ryder Cup pressure is so much more than any other event. You don't know how some of these individuals are going to react to that.
So, when you're talking about, performance, here's the other part. Oddly, golf is in possession of what I believe is the greatest home field advantage in sports. It's weird. We don't associate that at all with it, but the data and the results bear it out. The home team in this competition blows out the opponent. Yeah. And yes, things change every 2 years in terms of who the personnel is, and the venue changes, whether it be Spain or whether it be Rome or Paris or all over the United States. The average margin in the last 5 Ryder Cups, the home team has won 17-11. So tell me, what is the home field for the United States worth? 1.5, 2 points? Is there a way to determine that?
Well, I mean, as I just alluded to there, the crowd on top of the golf course, and if Kerry Haig and the team at the PGA of America
that's the other part
is setting it up properly. I mean, so home field at a football game, it's still the same field. It's 100 yards long, it's 50 yards wide. Home game in a Ryder Cup, you get to manipulate the playing field. And that's why I think that over time, and with science and agronomy and everything and data, we study. I mean, they certainly did it at Rome.
Yes.
Right? Luke Donald and his team, specifically Eduardo Molinari, yes, they have done it to us notoriously. And where they lean into analytics and we lean into our gut, it's certainly one of those things where I thought we could have even gone further at Wesseling Straits into the way that we play.
Yeah.
I mean, Luke Donald was doing it strategically, hole by hole. Thinking about all of this and putting into perspective on how his players could perform better and then taking our strengths away. So almost compounding the issues. That's why there's such a drastic degree of difference between, that's why it's such a home field advantage. It would be like if you could tilt the field or the ice when a team comes in and they're playing for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I think, you were talking about football. I do think it becomes more of an advantage later in the year when the home team is accustomed to where they're playing. I mean, elements changing, and that's a variable. I do think, though, that whether it be Hazeltine, whether it be Whistling Straits, whether it be Valhalla, even Medina, en masse, they were blowing out the European team with an absence of rough, which leads to this question. Is the style of these two teams more similar than it's ever been? Because it used to be, we're bomb and gouge, they're plotters, they play from the fairway. Are these 24 players more alike than they've ever been?
You nailed it 100%. It always used to be American, you make it a big ballpark, make it where you can smash it. Look at this European team. They're as long as the American team on paper right now, and you've got some guys that hit it wide. It's never been closer as far as the styles of play.
Keith, there was something that you shared with me on the radio side earlier this week about something that the Americans should try to exploit, and that is iron play, distance of iron play. Explain where you think the United States has an advantage in terms of, whether it's 125 to 150. You tell us where you think, whether it's Keegan Bradley, whether it's Kerry Haig, the entire United States side wants the lion's share of their players to be playing from into these greens.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons I tend to get your guys' attention is that I just look at things from a different lens. I'm always looking at it, from a playability point of view. And the first thing I did was I asked for a scorecard from the PGA of America. I said, what's the official? I know it's match play. You don't need a scorecard, but how are the holes going to be set up for the Ryder Cup? And this was over the summer. And then I went out and played Bethpage myself, and I just looked at where things were. And I started to think about it, and I go, holy cow. And then I had the 2019 scorecard with me, and I go, they're making this shorter. And then what I know in the back of my head from traveling with the tour and handicapping them week after week after week is that we're better wedge players. And if you go back to Rome, they took our wedges away. They completely took our. How many times did you see us hit a close wedge? Don't worry, don't think about it. We didn't do it, okay? And they made it, they brought, at Rome, it was all about high leverage long iron shots, all right? And yeah, you're gonna roll out Hatton, Rahm, Victor, all of those guys. We need to go low is what we need to do. right? They are better drivers of the golf ball. You already mentioned it, right? Like that's why I said these two teams are so close that the odds shouldn't be like that. Is that they're almost identical to one another, other than the experience factor. So it really comes down to that. When you start to look at the golf course, it's 107 yards shorter than it was in the 2019 PGA, right? When you played there in 2012, right, or in 2012 for the Barclays, I am sure it was probably as much length as they could add to that place and make it as difficult as it was for you, right? Imagine you're going into there now for an even bigger event and they're making it shorter. That tells you that Kerry and Keegan are like, we want to hit these types of shots. Now, it's Bethpage, you're going to hit long ones, but we want to hit these types of shots. And then heading in as a team player, what would that make you think? Brendan, we're going to put it in your wheelhouse for you.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's exactly what you want. But something that you said there, we need to go low. I think that's exactly what you need when you're the home team as well, right? You go low, you get that crowd engaged, you make a bunch of birdies. Birdie roars are very different from par roars winning holes.
Yeah, it's what's also interesting is that if you look at these teams, a lot of people think, well, come on, you're overanalyzing this. Europe just made more putts. It's not that simplistic, but yes, they obviously made more putts because that's why they were winning these matches. If you look at these two teams, Brendan, in terms of their putting statistics, the United States has a lot of very good putters statistically, including the best player in the world, who over the last 2 years has improved his putting statistics exponentially. But also, so has Europe. Their best player, Rory McIlroy, is now among the most reliable putters in men's professional golf. Who has the advantage in your mind, the Americans or the Europeans on greens that don't have a lot of contour?
They don't.
These greens are not that big, and they are relatively flat compared to what they're accustomed to dealing with.
Honestly, Gary, that's one of those things. I think if you went man for man there, it'd be hard to find a real difference between the two teams, putting-wise. You know, I think you look at guys, obviously you said it, Rory there. Rory's one of the 10 best putters on the PGA Tour this year. He's putted really, really well. Then Scotty, you go to their best player, he's in the top 20. Sam Burns, the very best putter there is. You look at a guy like Tyrrell Hatton's an unbelievably good putter under pressure as well. That to me is one where it's hard to find a difference between the two teams. The only thing is maybe Colin Morikawa is really struggling with the putter. You look at the European side, is there anybody that's struggling with the putter? I don't think so.
I'm going to back him up on this. I think that both teams are going to putt very, very well. I think that, again, they're very evenly.
You think a lot of that has to do with the greens themselves, or just that they're going to respond to the environment and they're going to make putts under pressure?
I think both.
Okay.
I think the greens will lend themselves to more putts being made because of the general nature of them. There's only one or two I can think of that are really sloped, like 11 is really back to front. But for the most part, they're pretty flat, which is very unlike Tillinghast. But you know what? There's enough going on in that golf course. He gives you a little break at the greens. So I agree with him on this. I think it falls back to like, what is your strategy on how you're putting these pairings together and setting guys up for the most success, right? And it really comes down to that if you're going to do this properly, whether you're going for foursomes or four ball, you've got to look at the holes, right? All of the odd holes are set up for a left to right ball fight or right-handed faders, okay? The even holes, now we're just strictly talking off the tee. The even holes are set up for guys that like to draw the ball that are right-handed and move the ball from right to left. And if you put guys on the tee, if you put Colin Morikawa, who loves to fade the ball, on the even holes, he's just not going to perform to his best. And we have notoriously done that as Team America. And I truly believe that Keegan wants to make a difference, and he is going to follow what that blueprint is. And then those balls, they know where they're going to land, because like if I'm partnered with Brendan, I know where his drive's going to land.
Right.
So then I pick the right guy who's going to hit from that area, and then all of a sudden the approaches get shorter, and now the putts start going in because the approaches are short. Well, why are the approaches closer to the pin? Well, because we set ourselves up for success from the tee box. So really the putting discussion, they're pretty even. I 100% agree.
Yeah. Let's
take it back to the tee and set it up properly.
So for the 11 European players who played in Rome, if you had to, whether it's 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, what will be those things that are decidedly different in terms of setup from what they did when they blew out the United States team? Is it the absence of rough?
The absence of rough, sure.
Is it the shape of the holes? That they had a lot of holes that were favorable to them hitting cuts out there, where there are more holes here where you're trying to hit it in the other direction.
Yeah, you're definitely slinging it here more often.
Yeah.
As a right-handed player.
With driver in hand on
yes.
these long par fours.
And there's going to be a lot more attackable holes.
Okay.
Because the greens are flatter and they're not going to be as guarded as they were over there in Rome. There's just not going to, I know this is going to sound like sacrilege that there aren't going to be as many long iron shots at Bethpage, but look what they did. You know, they shortened 5 holes, 2 of which are 2 of the longer par 3s. Now, we may not get to 17, but 17
Let's
was like, yeah, well, 17's like 225, and they pushed it down into the like 185 range, and they did the same thing. They made 3 20 yards shorter. They are doing this on purpose. Like, that's the difference between a 5-iron and a 7-iron for these guys. So continually doing that over the course of the 90 holes that this match could take on, right? That's the advantage. That's the home course advantage.
Yeah, 17 is as close to the octagon as golf can get. I mean, it's a great natural amphitheater. It's a green that's got an hour-shaped green. And again, the setting itself, you know that it's tense. If you got there, the match is close. And I hope that it plays the way it should, which is in excess of 200 yards, because you have the shortest hole in the golf course on the back 9, the par 3, I think it's 14.
14.
Which is about 161 yards. It actually has as much variability in terms of pin locations as probably any green on the golf course. All right, 5 sessions, Brendan. And then we'll ask him from a handicapping standpoint, advantage, disadvantage, because there's a lot of toll that can be taken out of a player having to try to go the distance like some do. The best players usually, we're seeing less of it now. How many players do you think can and likely will play 5 sessions?
I think we're going to see probably 3 or 4 at most that will go total between the 2 teams. That'll go 5 sessions.
Okay.
I mean, you played in excess of 300 PGA Tour events. You played in the 2013 President's Cup as a rookie, right, and a captain selection. Mm-hmm. And you played 5 times, which I'm going to go out on a limb and just say is somebody who had a huge impact on your golf career, maybe one of like your mentors, Ernie Els. You played 5 times with him. Yeah. Were you tired?
No. The adrenaline is, I mean, the adrenaline's here from start of the week to finish of the week. But President's Cup, you play 18-18. You don't play 36. You play 18, obviously, on Thursday, Friday.
I mean, we have to play 5 times.
Yeah.
If we have any discussion about not rolling out Scotty 5 times or Bryson, I mean,
really, Bryson 5 matches.
He qualified for this event in 8 tries.
No question.
Right?
He's got a weird Ryder Cup history. The first one, I totally absolve him of the Tiger Phil pairings. That was just weird altogether. You think he should play all 5? And I get your point. I mean, he is absolutely, in my estimation, he's one of the 5 best players in the world.
Since 1981.
Yep.
So, because I'm trying to include the Europeans, right? Since 1981, the team that's played equal or more guys 5 times is 14-7.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
You put your lead dogs out there and you let them lead, right? You give them the confidence
until
to
they
know.
don't lead by not winning. A lot of this is predicated on, look, we got to give him a session off. He just got blitzed 5 and 4. I mean, something that has to do with it, right?
Can you explain to me why in Rome, Scotty only played 4 times and Max Homa was the only player that played 5 for the U.S.
Who was
side?
the best player on the American team that week? It was either Max Homa or Patrick Cantlay. It was not Scotty Scheffler.
Again, we can go back and forth on this, but the records pan out that you play your best players more often 5 times, and they win more often. And
do you agree with me that it was Homer or Cantlay that were the 2 best players?
Yes.
Not Scheffler.
Scotty was on the backside of a 9-7 loss in
yes.
I don't see Bryson going 5 sessions. I don't think he's going to play both alternate shot sessions.
Neither do I, but that's the way I would do it.
You would?
I would. I would put my best players out there more often. The last time that the U.S. played more 5-time players, shocker, 2008. Anybody know what happened in Valhalla? Was that a good captain for us?
Well,
Paul Azinger?
It was a very good captain. It also coincided with the absence of Tiger for the first time, and the Tiger-Phil dynamic didn't have to be navigated, which played. There's no doubt it did. And you had Anthony Kim, whose hair was on fire, and he was the Pied Piper and Boo Week. I mean, it was a blowout like we've had every time it's been over here, with the exception of Medina in this century. As far as handicapping, foursomes to four balls, the United States has actually been more competent in foursomes overall than people think. I think the perception is they're not good in that. They're not that bad. If you had to handicap the one format to the other in terms of who is better and who should be the favorite in each format, how would you do it?
Well, I would do it match by match.
Okay.
I do think that the home course advantage adds itself to being like, so if you want to, so if we start to talk about all the different number of bets that are available for the Ryder Cup once we go live, I think that when you start to look at the sessions, I think that there's a bigger advantage in foursomes for the home team. So I would lean there first to just specifically answer your question. But then four ball is a little bit more of a crapshoot, and then singles certainly it would lean more towards the home team because the course should be suited more towards our players. It really comes down to the fact that, like, all of these things that you're mentioning, they're very guttural reactions, right? Scotty got housed. He's crying on the back of a cart, right? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom Brady. Did you have a bad drive in the Super Bowl? You're down 26-3. Like, what would
28-3? But
28. But we have to stop thinking about this. And I'll get accused of just saying like, oh, Keith, you're just looking at the numbers and everything, right? But Moneyball works.
Yeah.
It absolutely works, right?
Do you think Moneyball is equally as applicable in this format as it is every other week of the year? This is not a meandering 72-hole stroke play event. This is confrontational golf with an atmosphere that these players are unaccustomed to being in. I think you talked about adrenaline. You never got tired. Mm-hmm. It is different. Do you think that is reliable? The Moneyball concept, which you've been as successful as anybody, picking people to win golf tournaments as anybody has, but do you think it's equally as applicable?
As to stroke play, there's no way. Not over 72 holes, no. Not with as situational as this is, but that being said...
Like, results are 18 holes.
Yeah, well, at best.
At best.
At best.
At best.
Right? The average foursome matches, they last 16.52 holes.
Yeah.
You're not getting to the octagon, right?
Yes.
But overall, over 90 holes, I will set up my team to put them in the best position to perform.
And you think Europe does that expertly, don't you?
Oh, I think Europe's been doing that for 20 plus years, and that's their secret sauce. Okay. It's always been about camaraderie and the different chants that they have and everything. And this is the question I'd love to ask Brendan, which would be, like, we're talking about how all of this comes together, right? And, we see all these US videos where they're like, oh, I couldn't hit the shot on the first hole, so I told Hal to hit it instead. It's like, whoa, no, wait a second. We had a plan for this, right? We always seem to, have a plan, and then we go 2-2 on a Friday or 0-4 on a Friday morning, and then it's like, and then we're out, right? Like, when Nick Price, fellow countryman of you, right, was setting up everything for that week, like, how did that process take place? Like, how thoughtful was that process for putting together the pairings for those team events? Yeah,
we played all our practice rounds together, or the guys that you knew you were going to go out with in that first session. Obviously, you go out and you 0-5 in that first session, and you'd have to switch things up a little bit. But we all went out with the guys that we knew we were going to play with. And Nick said, you guys talk amongst yourselves as far as alternate shot. You guys discuss where you guys are more comfortable, which holes you like the look of, and kind of left it up to the pairings to decide that themselves. And he didn't interject a whole lot into that.
I mean, you are a wonderful ball striker, all right? Does the golf ball make that big a difference in foursomes? Or is that just a lot of media compiling hyperbole?
Yeah, I don't think it makes that big of a difference. But in saying that, Ernie was very quick to say, I'm going to play your golf ball. So I didn't have to deal with playing a different ball. But I really don't think it's that big.
And they can adjust balls on each tee.
They can adjust, yep.
So, they've given them as much comfort as they can give me, even though they do have to actually play a ball that they may not necessarily play on a regular basis. All right, let's get into some wagering here specifically, because there's a lot going on, and people may think they have a great plan as far as I'm gonna do it this way, and this way, and it's right out in front of you. And whether it's betting on every hole, betting each one of these matches. The bets that you target, that you think the viewer should be looking at, how do you start, and what are some of them?
The biggest thing to understand from a betting perspective is that the normal PGA Tour week, more than 2/3 of the handle or the gross betting dollars come in pre-tournament.
Yeah.
So before Thursday. And then about 1/3 of that money then comes in over the 4 days that the golf tournament takes place. You've got to flip that mentality this week, because beforehand we really don't know what's going on. Before Thursday at 5 p.m. when the first set of pairings are announced, we know the golf course. We know what the players do, but we don't know how they're going to be combined. So anything that has to do with the subjective nature of pairings, captain's decisions, how many times they're going to play, big PSA here, please stay away. So like the most points by a rookie, all of those things.
Avoid that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you may have your heart set on Russell Henley, being a great rookie because he's going to get paired with Scotty, and all of a sudden, hey, in the practice rounds, you see today that, I didn't notice Scotty was also playing with JJ, and that's his foursomes partner all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Things flip all of a sudden, and then again. All of this tends to be very guttural and reactionary, and then maybe that didn't go well, and then it goes back to, so stay away from the captain's choices. Go with what you know you can control. If you feel strongly about what I said earlier, that home course advantage in foursomes, then bet that the U.S. is going to win their foursome sessions. Bet that, home course advantage, that home team tends to get out to an early lead. Bet that we will win all day Friday. Stay with those. Stay away from the hole-in-ones. Stay away from, I joked with Gary the other day on Sirius. I don't bet the length of the national anthem for the Super Bowl because I don't sing it. So unless I'm singing it, I'm not betting that prop. And I really hope that folks would really pay attention to what we're saying now and take that and then make bets based upon the match setups when it comes time for each session. And that's the most fun part.
Right. But you said something that I want to get your reaction to. You said we won't know until Thursday, opening ceremony. They'll roll out the first session. I think we can extrapolate things from what's going to happen over the next couple of days. Again, we're getting right there in terms of back to practice rounds. And the other thing is that these 11 guys from Europe, not only did they compete together, they won matches together. And here's where I think you guys are going to, you're going your separate ways here, because I'm going, why wouldn't Rahm and Hatton play together? They won together. Why wouldn't Fleetwood and Rory play together? They won together. You think that's going to happen, right?
Yeah, why wouldn't it? It's proven. It's proven that these guys play well together. I understand that we're going to be going and seeing a different golf course, but these guys have proven that they've got this comfort together as well, and they've had results together.
You don't think that's necessarily going to be the case?
I don't. I think Luke and Eduardo will lean heavily into how the guys fit the golf course. I think that the Procore pairings, not the Procore, they played in the BMW
Yes,
Championship
sure.
pairings were different. They could have put them out in 3 balls to start that week, and they didn't. They had certain twos, like Fleetwood played with Rose. Victor played with Rasmus. And that Victor Rasmus seems like a very good 4-ball pairing that, so Victor goes with Ludwig again, and they destroyed people in foursomes. I'm all for the Seve, Jose Maria, comparison for 1 or 2 of them, but I think a lot of them are going to rotate around based upon it's a different golf course. Again, we're talking about faders and drawers going together. Who's the best long iron player or the best short iron player? All of those factors, I think, will play a role, and I think people are going to be surprised. And I think if you assume going into it that if you're Keegan and that team that they're just going to be the same, I think Luke loves that idea.
So you did not get any intel of the European team and who played with who when they were at Friar's Head before they got to Bethpage and dined on some Waldorf salads? You don't know who was with whom? So
I know that they were with Jose Maria.
Yes,
right?
They were.
And they are continually thinking about what they do to have success.
Okay.
And drinking the Kool-Aid.
Okay, on the American side, because you have 4 rookies, you assume again, and here's where you get some question marks on the American side, because Justin Thomas has lost his whoopee in Jordan Spieth, and we do not know state of Xander Schauffele's game. Not only did he not make it to the Tour Championship after kind of a challenging year, which started with the injury, so his season started late. He didn't play in the Pro Tour, so we don't know necessarily. I don't know if Cantlay and Xander are tethered together. How about the American team and who you think is most likely to be together, and get your reaction to them and their strengths and weaknesses?
Well, I think we've got to see Scotty and Henley go out. The fact that they got to play that President's Cup and combine so well, I think we'll see those two guys go out. Listen, for me, I think we're going to see Ben Griffin in that first session. This is a guy that's coming in with form. He's a guy that's playing really well, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him go out with Harris English. I think Harris and Ben know each other very well. I think that would be a very comfortable pairing for those guys. J.J. Spawn, Sam Burns. To me, that one makes perfect sense. I think J.J. Spawn is a wonderful iron player. Sam Burns, obviously a great putter. We've talked about that a lot. And then I think we will still see Xander and Cantlay go.
Okay. What's your reaction to those thoughts?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there in a short amount of time. I've seen a lot of Cantlay and Burns together.
Okay.
And I kind of love that, because Burns can make, if they have a 16-hole match, he can make 15 birdies, right? And Cantlay's very steady.
They probably won't go 16 holes if he makes 15 birdies.
Well, allow me a little hyperbole. Just a little bit.
Be a hell of a match if he does.
It would be, But the point being is that, I'm gonna beat a dead horse. Scotty and Henley, I love that together. Scotty's going this way, Henley's going this way. That's a perfect match together. I love somebody in a 4-ball that's even a little bit steadier, that's gonna hit more fairways. I mean, you didn't mention Morikawa out in foursomes and alternate shot. I think he's a great pairing with Harris English. Just the steadiness there. I think Ben Griffin is an incredible 4-ball player. He doesn't hit a lot of fairways, so he kind of scares me for putting him out in alternate shot. And he's also a very emotional player, so I love him going on Friday afternoon with somebody who's also going to make a lot of birdies. I would almost put Ben Griffin with Bryson in the afternoon and let's go, because Ben again hits it this way, Bryson hits it this way. They're both incredibly good wedge players. I mean, Ben Griffin is a really good wedge player, a really good putter. Just putting him out there in a place where he could just swing away, because the guy that goes before or after him is going to hit it 30 yards by him. That level of comfort. When I look at the Americans, I mean, that's kind of how I break it down. I mean, those things, they make sense to a degree, but I would go to the nth level, because I know that Europe is.
Okay, for the bettor out there who sees a team down early, and then they see value immediately in terms of that match, because whatever the odds were at the beginning, all of a sudden the American team, which includes Scotty Scheffler, is 2 down through 5, give people an idea of the approach of how to wager matches that suddenly appear to have value, and whether do they or do they not, and what's the best way to understand if they do?
So in my world, we got to be, I'm going to talk to a bettor here, like a supposed bettor, right?
He's not.
He's not, but a supposed bettor, like I'm talking to the screen, and I would say, hey, be careful chasing. When those odds go up and they look juicier, that's not necessarily value.
But which is contrary to what you should do with Scotty in a stroke play event. You should definitely monitor it.
Yeah. I mean, Pro Tour, he went into the weekend 8 back. He was 8-1, and he won. And I mean,
everybody else would have been 80-1
or more.
Yes,
depending on
8-1 going into the weekend.
He was 8-1 going into the weekend.
They know. That's called Mr. Inevitable.
Right? Now, they're setting you up, because what we know about Bethpage is that you got to go low early, right? You played there again in 2012, right? Of the first 13 holes, like 8 of them play under par. Like, that's a good thing, right? Because after that, the thing comes to a crescendo. 15, 16, 17 are brutal, right? So we really chasing. All of a sudden, like, you're going to see Scotty. Maybe he's two down through 5. He's only going to have, and that match is now shrinking also over time. Like, it's not going to make it to 18. Maybe it won't make it to 17. And all of a sudden you're going to see, oh, I get Scotty odds at 4-1 here in this matchup. And like, oh, I'm definitely hitting that. Well, I don't know. I mean, if I'm looking at the pairings, and I know that European team is really strong, I may be laying more money, but I would probably go with the people that are in front, and I would just keep hammering that, almost to the point where, like, you know, in college football, when you have like Georgia playing Georgia State, you know, and the spread to start the day was like 20, and then they're up by 40. I'm like, yeah, well, they're going to go to 45. Like, this is the direction things are going on this, because you're running out of time, and the easier holes on Bethpage Black come early. If you don't get up early, if you get up early, then I would go with the guys that are in front, and you're going to return way more tickets, especially in the team competition, because you're going to need to make a bunch of birdies to catch up, and you're hoping the other team doesn't.
Yeah.
Who on the European side do you think is the most reliable? Look, you have to have a partner who contributes, because there are a lot of guys who can play exceptionally well, and they lose the point. That at the end of the week you go, gosh, he was 1-3-1. You have no idea he played his ass off. Give me two guys that you feel most confident are going to play well and produce points.
I think we're going to see Tommy Fleetwood. I think Tommy Fleetwood's going to play well. Tyrrell Hatton.
And he's already been good in this competition, and now he's in a different place. There's a handful of guys on the European team who are better than they were 2 years ago.
Robert McIntyre.
He's another one.
That guy's underrated. Hatton, for me, every time I watch Tyrrell Hatton play, I'm impressed.
Okay.
I think he's going to.
Fleetwood and Hatton for you.
Fleetwood and Hatton.
Do you have guys that you think are guys that you would wager on for various reasons? And I know you're relying on performance, and you've watched more than anybody. Give me some guys.
I think it's going to be very difficult to be under the microscope from the crowd. So somebody like Rory, he's going to do his very best, and I'm sure he'll be very strong. But I look towards Fleetwood. I think Fleetwood will have a big Ryder Cup, and I think Jon Rahm is somebody that, when Rory takes all the attention, and he's probably doing it for a reason, and Luke's going to let him do it, it's going to take a lot of pressure off of Hatton, Fleetwood, Rahm, Victor. And I think that somebody like a Rahm, if you forced my hand to go for like most points, I think Rahm will play 5, and I think Rahm has a good chance to show up. It's a very good golf course fit for him.
All right,
you look at Hatton anyway. He's pissed off regardless of the crowd, so it doesn't matter. They're not going to affect him any more than any other crowd.
He's in his own world.
They all are. Give me somebody who you think will surprise on each team in a good way.
I think JJ Spawn. I really think JJ Spawn. I do. I think this guy's got the makeup to deal with the pressure of the cauldron that's the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, rarely does a U.S. Open champion have as low a profile. One as he did before he won it. And since, and he's had some good moments, obviously, since then. I think the fact that he had a good result in one of his last starts was encouraging for him, and certainly for Keegan Bradley. How about you?
I think Cam Young.
So do I.
I think the intimacy with that golf course is really going to help him. And I also think that he is the type of person that sets goals. I've known Cam for a very, very, very long time. I coached a lot of students that went against him in junior golf nationally. He is very driven quietly. We're always looking for people to pound their chest and say, I'm great. He's not going to do that. But I mean, he was the first amateur to ever win the state open at period. He did it at Bethpage Black. He shot 64 in the final round, and then he went in a playoffs, and then he won the event as an amateur, as a kid.
No, it's wildly impressive.
And I think they're going to use him a lot because he's very well suited to that golf course in either format.
We didn't mention his name. Another guy who has improved his putting statistics. He's made a quantum leap. And for all the talk about, he hadn't won because, he can get down on himself and it's his demeanor. No, when you're outside the top 100 in putting and you don't make putts down the stretch, those are the reasons why you don't win golf tournaments. To his credit, to Rory's credit, certainly to Scottie Scheffler's credit, they have become very reliable putters. I'm with you. How about experience there? Half of the guys in this competition played in the PGA in 2019. Is there any value to that? 7 Europeans, 5 Americans. Patrick Cantlay had the best result. He finished in a tie for third. Well back, but nonetheless finished third.
I think it goes back to the number one discussion we always have, which is how are they going to match up to this environment?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's nice that they've been there before. Maybe that they're kind of used to the golf course and maybe the facilities, but everything's going to be different this week.
I don't think that has
not much factor at all.
I look back at we were at Muirfield Village for the President's Cup, which was typically one of the hardest golf courses. It turned into an absolute birdie fest during the President's Cup.
Okay, a couple more things on strategy before we get to who wins and why. As far as, like you said, do not just impulsively bet on sessions until you know these matchups.
Yes.
And once you do, as far as the idea of betting a whole session, betting that the United States is going to win morning foursomes, which, by the way, the United States on American soil has won every session for the last 10, with the exception when it was over in Medina. And when I say session, I mean end of day. They have led every single day in 2008, 12, 16, and 21 until it was over, in, obviously at Medina in 20. How about that approach as far as betting end of day results?
Definitely sessions, end of days. That's what I would be doing.
You would?
I would be doing it pre-tournament based upon all of that history.
Yep.
I think that definitely it warrants it. And then as I might even add to it as the pairings came out and I saw like, oh wow, I was like, that looks like a really good solid session for us. And a lot of this too comes down to timing. Some people aren't used to live betting. You have time. Like when this comes out, you don't need to like just run. You know, if you're the Saturday afternoon and the 4-ball pairings come out for the afternoon at your kid's soccer game, and you have to like run and tell your wife like, hey, I gotta go check something in the car. You know, and you're like hitting the phone. You know, you don't have to do those things. Like you have a minute, right? You can go and then you can, pop a couple wagers in the phone, and you've got some time to do it. I don't want people to feel like there's this like this crazy sense of urgency or whatever. I mean, this is meant to be entertainment. You know,
yes.
we laugh a lot about this. I know he's very uneasy sitting next to me, right? But like we laugh about all of this, and we have the best time because it is entertainment, right? For me, I read the line doesn't run on my bets. It runs on the fact that I just give out new golf media information, right? That's different than what other people do. And people seem to like that right now, and they're consuming it at a viral amount. But like overall, it doesn't do with the fact that like I might pick a winner or I'm getting a bunch of top 10s right, So it's important to me to make sure I express to everybody that like this is entertainment, have some fun with it. Live betting may be new to you, right? Take your time, work your way through it, and kind of, you could bet on anything at any moment. Take your time and do the right thing.
But you have said, I mean, the objective is to win money.
Oh, no.
I mean, no. It is all fun.
No. I mean, that's about as deep on the PSA as I'm going to go, Gary.
Venmo your account, another couple hundred. One last thing before we get to who wins and why. Singles. A lot of people impulsively wager on who's going to win a singles match on resume and reputation. Mm-hmm. And I get it. But it's 18 holes, and anything, we know it, can happen. How about that? Not knowing who's going to, but you know that. They're going to go, oh, Scotty's going to win that. Rory's going to win that. Rahm's going to win that. How careful should people be about evaluating, who you're going to wager on in singles? Like, pay attention to how they got there, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, pay attention that there could be a tie.
Yes.
Okay? Like, everyone forgets the tie, and it sits there in the middle of the bet. And like on Sunday singles, these guys are the best.
Yeah.
Right? You're completely splitting hairs at times. So I'm looking at the best fit for the golf course, and I think that'll play out accordingly. And you'll win and lose some. But don't forget the fact that two guys could tie, and then you lose the winning bet.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that you understand when it comes to wagering on golf or any other sport that you completely understand the bet that you're taking on. There will be markets that will eliminate the tie, but then there is no payment for that. But like at the end of the day, singles, to answer your question, I would go with course, fit, and form, and I would roll from there. And don't be thrown off. It's, nobody ever saw it at Whistling Straits that some unknown player named Scotty Scheffler would take John Rahm behind the woodshed, and he did.
Rahm was the man of the match up until
he
that
was,
moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, even though they were getting blown out, he played as well or better than anybody else. All right, who wins and why?
Oof, I want to sit squarely on the fence. Yeah, I really do. But I honestly, something we talked about right at the beginning, I think the Europeans get it done away, and I think it's just because of the experience, the dealing with the pressures of the Ryder Cup.
There's no better team that's suited to do this in New York. There really isn't.
Than this group.
Than this group. Everything. I mean, they do things like they create the Team Cup on the DP World Tour. Why are they doing that? Right? Because they're playing the same formats. Luke Donald is playing chess, not checkers. He's not running across the board looking to be kinged. Mm-hmm. That being said, right, I actually think that the suitcase, Keegan Bradley, and all of this is ready to put away the boys club. And I think from what I understand, that he's listening to everyone involved, especially the people that are telling them who and what goes where. And I think that with the home course advantage, it gives the U.S. a slight edge. And I think for the first time in a very long time since Medina, we are going to have something to really watch come Sunday afternoon. But I'm going to go Stars and Stripes.
Okay. The boys club thing is interesting because I think the boys club, some of those boys are not even there.
Yeah.
But you know, if Justin Thomas, who is somewhat of a question mark for me and has been a touchstone for this team, he's the one who has the most experience of anybody on that side. If he doesn't fire early and he grabs some pine, you know, that to me is reflective of Keegan Bradley not leaning into the boys club and this idea of this pressure to fulfill a certain quota because these guys are made men or they're part of, you know, the posse, so to speak.
The number one reason I think Keegan is listening, he didn't pick himself.
Yeah.
And he should have, right? He should be.
I disagree.
No. I mean,
yeah.
And not be captain.
Yeah.
But he is one of our best players.
He's one of our best players in the vacuum of being one of our best players. I don't think he's one of our best players also trying to be the captain.
No. I would never condone doing both. I'm just saying that, like, him putting that aside, knowing he could have played, that he did play good enough to be on the team, means that he is doing something that we haven't done in a very long time, and that gives me beyond optimism.
I'm certainly in agreement. Like you said, they're more equipped than anybody could be to do this, and you think that they will. There is a value to being at home. It's shown. And it's not just some value. It is huge. The home team has routed the opponent. And the truth is, Medina was a blowout until suddenly, weirdly, on a Saturday afternoon in the suburbs of Chicago, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But it still was because it was 10-6. I mean, that's a blowout on paper. And then it wasn't. I think that the United States is going to win, but I think they're going to have to walk through fire. And I think it's going to be late. And I think that Sunday afternoon is going to be exhausting, and it's going to be suffocating for whoever it is, those last couple of matches, realizing that, oh my God, it's coming down to these last three matches, whatever they are.
And that's what we want, right?
Yes.
That's what we want.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time, yep.
It's been Medina, and again, we needed something miraculous to transpire late Saturday to even make Sunday like a fleeting chance.
Yep.
Which they made it just that. We're going to have a lot more of this coming in 2026. We're excited about that. For all of us here at Five Clubs, a couple things. Pace yourselves. These are 3 days, and I'm not just talking about wagering. I'm talking about if you're going to this. When the beer stand's open at 7, that doesn't mean double fist it at 7. It means ease into the day because it's a long day. For Brendan DeYoung and Keith Stewart, I'm Gary Williams. Enjoy all of the Ryder Cup. And as far as wagering, it's supposed to be fun, but you're supposed to win money as well, right? Enjoy all of it.